Through Mountbatten, Windsor, in custody, held for about 11 hours. Tonight, here are the images showing him in the backseat of a vehicle as he was leaving the police station just a short time ago. Police searching his home, sources telling ABC News the royal family received no prior notice. Andrew is under investigation on suspicion of misconduct in public office over his ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew reportedly arrested after the files released by the U.S. Justice Department allegedly show he may have shared confidential information with Jeffrey Epstein.
Tonight, a moment that could redefine modern British history. A former senior royal, once at the center of global diplomacy, now under criminal investigation. The arrest sends shockwaves not just through the monarchy, but through political and legal institutions on both sides of the Atlantic. After years of scrutiny over past associations, this development shifts the story from controversy to potential legal consequence. The significance here is not symbolic, it is structural. A royal figure taken into custody, questioned for hours, released but still under investigation. That alone signals a turning point. This isn't about headlines or reputational damage anymore. It's about process. It's about whether newly released records expose actions that cross from poor judgment into possible misconduct in public office. And as investigators comb through documents and communications, one question hangs over the institution. How far does accountability reach when power and privilege are involved?
Now, still not. And the reason being is that the people that I met and the opportunities that I was given to learn either by him or because of him were actually very useful. Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite, in the sense that he was a sex offender.
Andrew claimed he cut ties with Epstein in 2010 after he'd been released from prison, but newly released emails indicate that's not true.
At the center of the investigation are documents recently made public, records that reportedly raise questions about whether confidential information may have been shared during an official government role. That distinction matters. Friendship is one issue. Official capacity is another entirely. If sensitive information moved through private channels while someone was serving as a trade envoy, investigators will want to know exactly what was said, when it was said, and why. The timing of communications is critical. So is the context. Legal analysts point out that misconduct in public office cases hinge on intent and misuse of authority. It's not simply about contact. It's about whether that contact compromised duty. Meanwhile, the royal family faces its own institutional test. Public statements emphasize cooperation and due process. But the larger issue is stability. The monarchy operates on trust, and trust depends on credibility. As this inquiry unfolds, the legal exposure may be personal, but the reputational impact is national.
The investigation, there is every chance that the brother of the king could become a convicted criminal. David?
James Longman leading us off tonight here. James, thank you. Meantime, back here in the U.S., a potentially dangerous night ahead. There are tornado warnings up as we're on the air right now. We're also tracking these severe storms and devastating fires across multiple states tonight. Red flag warnings from New Mexico to Missouri, winds gusting up to 70 miles per hour. These images right here, fires in Kansas already destroying nearly 300,000 acres. Rain and snow tomorrow.
Released without charge, but not cleared. That's where this stands tonight. Investigations of this magnitude move deliberately, especially when they cross jurisdictions and involve high-profile figures. There may be further questioning. There may be additional disclosures. And there is still the possibility of formal charges, depending on what investigators ultimately determine. For now, the case underscores something larger than any one individual, the reality that institutions are being tested in real time. Law enforcement, political leadership, and the monarchy itself are navigating a moment where transparency and accountability intersect under global scrutiny. And that question of institutional pressure, how systems respond under strain, is something we're seeing far beyond this story. Because tonight, across the United States, another kind of test is unfolding. A different kind of emergency, and it's happening in the skies, on the ground, and along the coastlines.
Parts of 3 states. In western Oklahoma, Firefighters driving through the scorched earth and damage left behind by the fast-moving 43 complex fire in Woodward County.
It was pretty rough. We were overran immediately in the beginning. It was just too much volume.
Thankfully, firefighters able to prevent any homes from being lost there. Meanwhile, parts of the upper Midwest dealing with the aftermath of a blizzard, accidents all over the Twin Cities area.
Across the country tonight, the threat map is layered and moving. Tornado warnings active. Wildfires advancing. Blizzard impacts still disrupting travel. And another coastal system forming. In the plains, wind gusts are accelerating flames across vast stretches of land, turning dry vegetation into fuel. Fire crews are racing not just against fire lines, but against time, because when wind speeds reach this level, containment becomes exponentially harder. Meanwhile, in the Midwest, drivers are still navigating hazardous road conditions in the wake of heavy snow and ice. Each of these events alone would command national attention. Combined, they create a complex emergency landscape stretching from New Mexico to the Northeast. And what makes this particularly challenging is the sequence. Severe storms pushing east, cold air wrapping behind them, and then the potential for coastal intensification. The system doesn't simply end, it evolves.
Tornado warnings across Illinois and into Indiana, and then winter alerts into the Northeast and through the plains as well. Through tonight, snow from Nebraska into Iowa. We'll still have severe weather moving from Indiana into Ohio and heavy rain in the Mid-Atlantic. Tomorrow mornings are soaking from D.C. to Philly to New York, maybe some snow in the Hudson Valley and Capital District. Through the day, it's snowing upstate New York and New England, 3 to 6 inches from Boston into Maine, icing northern Pennsylvania into Connecticut. Then the weekend storm. Still trying to pinpoint this storm track. If it hugs the coast, obviously, it's higher impact with more snow and wind. We think it's a little farther offshore. That still could mean a light to moderate snow.
Meteorologists are tracking multiple overlapping hazards. Active tornado warnings in parts of the Midwest. Heavy rains soaking major metropolitan corridors. Snow accumulating further north. And forecasters still refining the projected track of a potential nor'easter. The difference between a coastal track and a slightly offshore path can mean the difference between heavy snow and manageable precipitation. Infrastructure planning hinges on those miles. Power grid strain, airport operations, highway safety, all influenced by atmospheric shifts measured in degrees and pressure changes. What stands out tonight is not just severity, but scope. Avalanche warnings in the west. Fire danger in the plains. Flood risk where ice jams build along waterways. This is a reminder of how interconnected weather systems are and how quickly localized danger can scale into regional disruption. And while communities brace for impact, another case unfolding in Arizona shows how investigations, too, depend on timing, coordination, and critical evidence.
Sources telling ABC News it's a mixture of DNA from a male and a female. They need to separate it, and they're hoping the male DNA could help lead to a potential suspect. They have said the DNA is not from a member of Guthrie's family. They also remain focused on video from the front door and on that backpack, which they know is sold at Walmart. Law enforcement sources tell ABC News Walmart is helping authorities with any receipts for that kind of backpack.
It's, hey, this backpack has been identified at only purchased at Walmart. That'd be a pretty high.
19 days into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, investigators are narrowing their focus to two key pieces of evidence. First, DNA recovered inside her home, described as a mixture that must now be separated and analyzed with precision. Second, a backpack seen in surveillance footage traced to a major retailer. In missing persons cases, physical evidence becomes the foundation for everything that follows. DNA, in particular, can either eliminate possibilities or sharply narrow them. But mixed samples require meticulous laboratory work. Analysts must distinguish profiles, determine relevance, and verify that any match is legally sound. Meanwhile, retail purchase records can provide timelines when an item was bought, where, and potentially by whom. That intersection between forensic science and digital tracking is increasingly central to modern investigations. And authorities are signaling they believe someone, somewhere, recognizes the individual seen on camera.
It was a combination of tips about that video, analysis of online searches, and other techniques that led investigators to the homes of these two men who were questioned and released. Tonight, those men are trying to clear their names. A lawyer for the man most recently detained, Luke Daly, saying in a statement Mr. Daly has no link whatsoever to Nancy Guthrie and has no information related to her kidnapping. And early on, hours after video from the front door was released, delivery driver Carlos Palazuelos was detained and questioned too, now telling our Phoenix affiliate KNXV.
Tips continue to pour in, but investigators acknowledge that momentum matters. When public attention fades, cases risk going cold. That's why law enforcement is casting a wider geographic net, including coordination across the border. The proximity to international crossing points adds urgency, not necessarily because there is confirmation of movement, but because investigators must rule out every possibility. Meanwhile, individuals previously questioned are publicly denying involvement, attempting to clear their names as scrutiny intensifies. This phase of an investigation is delicate. Too little information can stall public assistance. Too much can compromise leads. Detectives are balancing transparency with strategy, determined to identify the person captured on surveillance and connect physical evidence to a definitive suspect. For the family and community, the objective is simple: clarity. For investigators, it is evidentiary certainty. And tonight, in Idaho, another law enforcement challenge is unfolding. One involving urgency, risk, and unanswered motive.
Housing U.S. Department of Homeland Security offices before then trying to set the building on fire.
There is no doubt this building would have been burned, putting the lives of first responders and others at risk.
According to Meridian Police, the suspect fled Wednesday night shortly after 11 p.m. after being scared off by first responders and before any fire could be ignited. But police say the evidence suggests a level of premeditation.
The suspect drove the ambulance north through the parking lot and retrieved gas cans that had been staged in nearby vegetation.
Authorities in Idaho are searching for a suspect accused of stealing an ambulance and driving it directly into a building housing federal offices. According to investigators, the incident did not stop with the crash. Evidence suggests preparation. Gasoline containers allegedly staged nearby, indicating potential intent beyond property damage. That detail shifts the situation from reckless behavior to possible premeditation. Law enforcement officials emphasize that timing prevented a far more dangerous outcome. First responders arrived before any fire could be ignited, potentially averting injuries or worse. The focus now is identification and apprehension. Surveillance, vehicle tracking, and forensic analysis will all play roles. But the broader concern centers on motive. Was this targeted? Opportunistic? Ideologically driven? Authorities are not drawing conclusions publicly, but they are underscoring the risk posed to both personnel and surrounding communities.
While motive is not yet clear, police claim that DHS leasing office space in that building has been the subject of controversy regarding the Trump administration's immigration policy. DHS has been warning about a surge in threats against immigration officials, and while no one was injured, police are emphasizing just how dangerous the situation was. David?
All right.
Federal agencies have already been warning about heightened threats directed at government facilities and immigration-related offices. While investigators have not confirmed a motive in this case, context matters. When infrastructure associated with federal policy becomes a focal point, law enforcement must evaluate patterns as well as individual acts. The stolen emergency vehicle adds another layer of concern. Ambulances represent medical access. Repurposing one in an alleged attack introduces both symbolic and practical danger. Security reviews are likely underway, not only in Idaho but at comparable facilities nationwide. How accessible are these locations? What perimeter protections exist? And how quickly can response teams intervene? These are operational questions that extend beyond a single event. As the manhunt continues, the emphasis remains on preventing escalation and ensuring accountability. Tonight, four very different stories share a common thread. Institutions under pressure. A royal figure facing criminal investigation. Communities confronting extreme weather across multiple regions. A family waiting for answers as forensic evidence is analyzed. And federal authorities responding to a suspected targeted attack. Each case tests systems: legal, environmental, investigative, and security. The outcomes will depend on process, evidence, and response. So the question tonight is this: when institutions are challenged simultaneously, are they equipped to hold steady? If you value clear, balanced coverage that follows the facts wherever they lead, make sure to like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for continuing analysis. And stay with us, because in part 2, we turn to rising global tensions and major political decisions that could reshape international stability.